Coming up, the Bucks stay undefeated and the Raptors blow out Trae Young and the Hawks. This is Locked On Game to Game NBA.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NBA. I'm your host, Jourdan Black, and thank you for making Locked On Game to Game your first listen every weekday. Subscribe to Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We've got our Locked On NBA hosts here to tell you everything you need to know from last night in the NBA. The Rockets and Clippers both came into Monday's matchup after both teams lost the night before. Locked On Rockets tells you which team avoided a second loss in 2 days on Monday.
Down to the wire, nail biter in LA. Unfortunately, the Rockets fall to the Clippers. What's up? This is Jackson Gatlin from Locked On Rockets. This game was right there for the taking, tied up 93-all. The Rockets had a chance to take the lead on one of the final offensive possessions of this game. A crucial last-minute turnover by Eric Gordon. Clippers come back down. Paul George hits what would be the game-winning bucket. Rockets still had one more chance to tie things up. They ran it through Eric Gordon again. Wasn't able to get the layup to go. Rockets falling in this game. Some questionable decision-making down the stretch of this one, though. Alperen Sengun, the second best player for the Rockets in this game, was benched for the final 90 seconds of this one. Was him being on the bench for better defensive versatility the right decision by head coach Stephen Silas? Plus, the final two offensive sets drawn up for veteran Eric Gordon. Wouldn't it have been better for Kevin Porter Jr. or Jalen Green to get those reps, those chances to maybe win this game? We're going to break it all down for you right over at Locked On Rockets.
The Wizards couldn't find a way to come back against the 76ers and took a loss at home. Locked On Wizards tells you what went wrong for Washington.
It's your boy Brandon Scott again from Locked On Wizards. The Wizards tonight fell to the Philadelphia 76ers 118-111 at home. Out of the big three of the Washington Wizards of Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, and Kristaps Porzingis, KP showed up on time, played great. Bradley Beal took a little while to show up, and Kuz didn't show up at all. But the 76ers did show out, led by a combined 51 points from James Harden and Tyrese Maxey. For the Wizards to be successful, because coming up, they face the 76ers on the road on Wednesday night, and they have the Brooklyn Nets and Memphis Grizzlies coming up. They're going to have to get better on defense, a lot better on defense, and defend the three-point shot. So again, the Wizards have their work cut out for them because it doesn't get easier from here. Thank you for tuning in. And again, Wednesday night, 76ers. Everybody take care.
The Indiana Pacers tied the game with 7 minutes left to go against the Nets, but couldn't close the door against Brooklyn. Our host at Locked On Pacers explains why Indiana couldn't secure the dub.
Pacers fall in Brooklyn to the Nets 116-109. I'm Tony East here, the host of Locked On Pacers, here to talk about how the Pacers did not get enough from basically everybody not named Chris Duarte in this game. Chris Duarte was excellent. He had 30 points, a career high, did a nice job defending some of the net stars, and everyone else was below standards except for maybe Buddy Hield, who had 22 points in this game. Tyrese Halliburton had 11 points and 5 assists. Miles Turner, right after talking about his future on a podcast with Adrian Wojnarowski, has 7 points and 5 rebounds and really struggles. A lot of bench players really struggled to put the ball in the basket. Pacers shoot under 30% from deep and couldn't slow down a Nets team that had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving both clicking in this game. So Pacers split the games with Brooklyn. They played very well on Saturday, but today did not get enough from some key guys that were needed. We'll talk about it all and more on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, which is why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster, and get this, it's free. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster, so you can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NBA. I'm your host, Jourdan Black. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Raptors dominated the Hawks Monday, building up to a 30-point lead by the time things were said and done. Locked On Raptors and Hawks have everything you need to know from the matchup in Canada.
Maybe they should just build the whole plane out of wings. Sean Woodley here from Locked On Raptors to break down the Toronto Raptors 139-109 win over the Atlanta Hawks on Monday night. The big takeaway from this one is that without their all-star point guard Fred VanVleet, the Raptors were just fine thanks to the wing trio of Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, and OG Anunoby. Siakam continued his torrid start to the season, 31 points, 12 boards, 6 assists, his 6th straight game with better than 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's been just amazing. One of the 10 best players in the league to begin the year. Anunoby was the defensive ace in this one, completely harassed Trae Young. Trae Young had a triple-double with 10 turnovers in this one to go along with 10 assists and 14 points. And OG had 6 steals in this one, a lot of them coming at Trae Young's expense. He was outstanding. And Scotty Barnes started at point guard in this one, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, and a career-high 5 threes on 9 attempts for a guy who shot around 30% last season from outside. This trio is one of the best young trios, growing trios, whatever you want to call it in the NBA. And if the Raptors keep on getting these types of performances from them, they'll be able to withstand plenty of injury to Fred VanVleet. You can only imagine what it'll be like when he comes back. I'll have more about this game broken down on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Raptors. Be sure to tune in.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland, and the Atlanta Hawks go down in blowout fashion in Toronto. The inability to protect the ball the entire game was probably the biggest concern for Atlanta. 17 turnovers, leading to a whopping 43 fast break points for the Raptors. It's a bad matchup for the Hawks. Up and down the roster, Toronto plays a different style than most NBA teams. They're smaller in some ways, but also bigger in some ways. They overwhelm you with physicality, and the Hawks were not prepared for it in this spot. Defensively, they had all kinds of trouble. Trae Young really struggled with 10 turnovers on his own in this game, and the Hawks were just simply outclassed on the road. Their 7th consecutive loss in Toronto to the Raptors. We'll have a full breakdown of this game and more on the Locked On Hawks podcast.
The Detroit Pistons beat the defending champion Warriors Sunday and then nearly followed it up with a win over the Bucks.
The Bucks hold off the pesky Pistons to stay undefeated, 6-0 on the season. The final was 110-108 at Fiserv Forum. My name's Kane Pittman. I'm the host of the Locked On Bucks podcast. And of course, we're going to talk about the greatness of Giannis, 31 points again tonight in a ho-hum 31-minute performance due to foul trouble. But before the season, we worried about the Bucks injuries. No Chris Middleton, no Pat Connaughton. Joe Ingles is a long-termer. Grayson Allen goes out of this game tonight. And we wondered how the Bucks were going to overcome this. Experience, continuity. Tonight, you get 25 from Jrue Holiday. You get 24 from Brook Lopez, and you get 15 and 12 from old reliable Bobby Portis. This team has been through it all together, and there is no panic. And while other teams are figuring it out, the continuity of the Bucks is leading them to win. Subscribe to the Locked On Bucks podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube.
Well, that's all for today on Locked On Game to Game NBA. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Subscribe to Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast for more NBA coverage every day of the week. I'm Jourdan Black, and this has been Locked On Game to Game.